Welcome to this information tour of our brand new exhibition. There is no Planet B here in the Ars Electronica Center in Linz. We just had a long press tour also for our local journalists, including our politicians here, and we are already totally excited about this exhibition. It's really a very beautiful design, but even more so the whole selection of projects, the content is really incredible, and that's why I want already in the beginning to introduce Veronika Krenn. She is one of the young curators of our Ars Electronica Center here, and after the great exhibition about the future of work, this is now the second exhibition this year that she curated and produced, and she will actually be the person who guides us through this exhibition. There is no Planet B, of course, obviously, and I think that's a very right way to coin it. If we think of Planet B just as the stupid idea of finding an exit to some other planet or one of these stupid ideas. But when we look at it maybe a little bit more different, then we could say Planet B is of course also the Plan B. In German there is this wonderful word Bewusstsein, so to be aware of things, and if we just would start to really be aware of what's going on our planet, then maybe our behavior would become something like a symbolic or metaphoric Planet B, at least the Plan B that we definitely need to deal with the problems that are ahead of us. The wonderful thing with this exhibition is, again, totally in the style of Ars Electronica, that it's a combination of scientific projects, artistic projects, and of course a lot of information and facts that we all need to know when we are going to think about possible solutions for the big climate crisis, and of course even more so for changing the whole way how we produce, consume, or better said, how we waste energy. We are very happy about a very important collaboration. It's the Klima- and Energiefonds of Austria, an organization that is totally dedicated to support, drive development towards sustainable energies, and they are also generously supporting this exhibition, and we're helping with their expertise to put this exhibition together. But now, with any further ado, I really hand over to Veronika and ask her to explain us this wonderful project that's the starting point of this exhibition. Please, Veronika.
Yeah, thank you, Gerfried. So I'm also very happy to introduce you the new exhibition. There is no Planet B, Global Warming and Human Responsibility. So for us it was really, really important to see and explain our visitors the facts and the basic ideas, what is actually what is happening in the climate change, to really see like what is the wording, because we also found out that I personally used the wrong climate or weather in the wrong terms. So we really have this first cluster here in the entrance of the exhibition called Life, Climate and Climate Crisis, and we already have here our first artwork. It's from Marcheroux. In this work, the Museum of Edible Earth, over 300 samples of earth have been collected. The full version is actually based in the Netherlands. We have here slightly around, I think it's 50 samples, in which visitors can taste soil. And really give here also their impressions, what is actually, how soil tastes like. So for us, I guess in my personal life, I only use Heilerde or such other things, but there are still cultures out there where it's really traditional to eat soil. So it's in their daily health system to really, eat soil. This first cluster is really about what are our conditions to be alive, to be on our earth. So we will see a lot of projects in the beginning and also data and visualizations. What are actually the facts that we can live as humans on our planet? And I already wanted to reframe from here on to another project, what I hope you will see in the end of the room. It's a projections of a raindrop by Alistair McClimont. I hope I now pronounced it correctly. So what you can see, it's actually a raindrop floating in the space. What you don't see at the moment is that he built, based on a scientific paper from the 70s already, like a huge funnel and from tubes which are holding this raindrop in its place, and that's the reason why it's we have the sense that it's completely floating in the space as well. So we really tried to give here our visitors the basic ideas, what is there actually on our Earth, what is necessary to really have the soil and the water to grow things, to generate energy. Yes.
Maybe I can add something here to the Museum of Edible Earth, because it's not just a title, it's actually really edible earth. So the nice thing with this is here in the exhibition, people can actually really taste samples of earth. And I think a very important point of this project is definitely to show this diversity, this multitude of what earth actually means. When we talk about how to change the world, to transform the world, we foremost must have to think about that there is not just one world. It's not our world here in Austria and Europe. We have many, many different perspectives, many different needs, and one of the big challenges, of course, to tackle the problems that are ahead of us is how can we come to terms with these issues on a global scale.
Yeah, so during our research into the exhibition, we also had a look on like what are actually the system behind which cause the most emissions, and one of them is definitely like agriculture, especially here also in Austria. And so I also want to introduce our another project here, life support system. Here the artist is actually already on site. He was here quite for such a long time to build it up, and I actually want to introduce directly Nicolas Macret from thisnovation.org to explain a bit his project.
Sure. So the way we could start is to think about, in our contemporary urban condition, the main way in which we talk, discuss and describe the world around us is through economic metaphors. But the thing is that in the current economic system, the value of the ecosystems is not assessed and considered in any right ways. So what we wanted to achieve and develop through this project is to give a sense of the order of magnitude of the contributions of ecosystems to the value of the goods and, for instance, agricultural products we depend upon. So what's happening here is that we built a totally artificial environment where we are trying to grow 1 square meter of wheat, where all the inputs, material and energetical inputs, have to be provided artificially. So by doing this sort of in-lab experiment, we can sort of approach an estimation of the order of magnitude of the minimum viable ecosystemic contributions that are required to make this simple square meter of vegetal survive until the harvest. And what you can see on the screen here behind you is basically this ongoing process of estimation that will be refined during the time of the exhibition to sort of give a sense, not of the exact price, because there is no such thing as an exact price, but the scale of what is not taken into account in a regular current economic system, in which, for instance, today on the global market you can buy a kilogram of wheat for 15 cents. And here you can see that the estimated value, when you start accounting and taking into account all the other contributions that are not human affairs but ecosystems, biosphere work in a way, you end up with values that are immensely bigger and larger. And that's a way, I guess, to grasp something of the essential and core presence and contribution of ecosystems to any value we depend upon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this introduction. We are skipping a little bit these info stations because that's not really so fun and exciting to show it on the stream, but as I said already, there is tons of information in these touch screens and in the many videos that we put together. So what's the next project that you're going to present?
So yeah, we are actually now moving into the area where we talk about the energy and energy turnaround. We are explaining here a lot of fundamental concepts about how we actually generate energy, how we can use them more efficient, how we actually can share them all together. And here our biggest points are actually coming from our cooperation partner, the Climate and Energy Fund here in Austria. So we developed a multi-touch screen where we actually have a look into Austria, what is happening in there, explaining the brand new project. And the amazing thing here is that we can constantly update the project to see what is now going on in Austria. So actually here we see now a project in Styria. It's a blockchain grid where households actually share the energy, they produce it together, they store it as a community and to save energy, and yeah.
To say something to this as well. I think that's really an important part here of the exhibition, even if it's just this rather small multi-touch table, but to see the plenitude of projects that are taking place just here in our neighborhood, in our region, is one of the points that I think is also an important part of this exhibition, and this is encouragement. Showing people you are not alone if you are interested in going to, doing these things. There are plenty of experts and experiences, so just jump onto the train and you can be part of this new development. And also in this part we have a lot of information about projects on a European scale, because this is of course also definitely one of the issues. We won't be able to solve these problems just on our own as nation states, but at least, so to say, in the big context of European Union or even the global scale. I think that's a chance if you're operating in this way. And I think this brings us, first of all,
yeah, so I also wanted to mention here, like, of course, like renewable energy. I think that's one system that is already a common knowledge from our visitors. And so I want to introduce like Thomas Schwarz. So he made an amazing project, which we hopefully you can explain us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to show it here in this nice exhibition. My artwork is called Derotation, and it is a question about my own usage of energy in creating media arts, and how far you can go, how much maybe waste you can produce in creating messages, in showing your own ideas. So what you see on this rotating display is a video of a windmill which is also rotating but in the opposite direction, and therefore you get a visually standstill of power consumption and a power consuming object, or a power saving and power consuming object. And I think it's a big question nowadays to also think about the sustainability in your own artworks and how far you can go in creating those pieces.
Great, thank you. I also have probably another very important interpretation for me when I see this work, because you're working with one of the most present, so to say, symbols of renewable energies, which are these big wind farms. But then again, it's not the wheel itself turning, but the screen. And maybe this also puts a little bit for me, it puts a kind of skeptical question also. Whether this idea of, again, the big industry creating huge windmills is really the only working way to deal with renewable energies. Whether we might not much more need small decentralized systems. Also a change in paradigm, how we consider the industry playing a big role. If we just continue to have the same old big industry doing now other forms of energy, we might not end up with the necessary paradigm shift that we need. And I think this is a very important question in general. What can be the role of technology? Is it okay that we believe technology will save the problem? Even artificial intelligence, that is now a very popular buzzword, where many people are hoping, okay, if we humans are not able to solve the problems, then maybe artificial intelligence can do it. And I think this leads to the next project, doesn't it?
Definitely, it was a super nice overlay. Yes, so we are actually now in our last artistic project here in the first floor. We also have further projects later on in the main gallery, which we also, for this reason, in this cooperation, we updated downstairs. So we will move there later on. So here we are now standing in front of the Asunder project by Tiga Brain, Julian Oliver, and Bengt Sörlen. So we actually have the super pleasure to have Bengt here with us today. As a short introduction, like, we loved your piece because it is an speculative climate manager. So we were all curious, like, how actually is it working back there? What is the system predicting us, or what should we change, or does it make sense to give technology this question?
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I'm Bengt Sörlen, and this is Asunder, this project comes from the situation that this exhibition is all about as well, that we're in deep trouble as a civilization and need to act and figure ways how to solve the problems for our habitat. But it's not only about our habitat as well, it's also about the habitat of other ecosystems on this planet, or will all being part of one big system, but we tend to see things from our perspective. And there tend to be a techno-naivism or techno-optimism in believing that some new invention will just fix everything, will make everything so that we can continue living our lives as we always have. Or there's possibly also the idea that the market will come up with something. But the market is already skewed and at fault, since it does not carry all the costs, and it cannot optimize solutions even according to its own theory. In response to this, we propose an absurd well, we put forward an absurd proposition, an environmental manager, an automated environmental manager that proposes solutions to problems that we have on the planet. And the reason is that we obviously cannot be trusted to make those decisions collectively, or at least we have shown that we have not been able to for the last decades. And what we see on the left screen here is satellite images from different regions that are identified as problematic, and that where some intervention needs to be done to resolve the problems that we have. And there we have time-lapse satellite images from 1984 up until current times, and that is Landsat satellites that has been covering the whole Earth, taking pictures of all landmass every 2 weeks since 1984. And these, the environmental manager then proposes or suggests different extreme and absurd solutions, like transplanting part of the planet, try to move mines or natural resources from one place to another, move cities or manufacturing across the world, creating new coastlines or new rainforests or whatnot. And it does this on a model of the planet, a climate model it's called popularly, but an Earth system model would be the correct name. And we use the Community Earth System Model 2, which is one of the models also used for the IPCC report and such. And it's extremely computationally intensive. It simulates the atmospheric chemistry, ocean chemistry, landmass with tens of different layers of soil, trees as individuals. And then can produce what we see in the newspapers in the end, like curves of temperature or sea level rise or so. But there's a lot of computational work involved in getting there. So the computer that we have here is a slice of a supercomputer. It's 200 cores that continuously grinds the math of these models into the future, basically advancing for each case 1 year of simulated time every day or so. And by the end of this exhibition, we will see where all these cases and suggested solutions, or whatever we should call them, lead to.
Yeah, in the background there was just a simulation to relocate Shenzhen to Vienna, so it was just amazing. We just spoke about exactly that scenario. Yeah, I think makes sense. Let's do this. Yeah. So we are now moving to our main gallery, where we want to introduce you to two new other projects. For making this transition as nicely for you as possible, we prepared a video from one of our projects. It's made by Marie-Cécile Tong and Jonathan Reus. They were 2020, they had an honorary mention from our Ars Electronica, Presse Ars Electronica, and we will see the project now, the General Earthquake Archive.
My name is Cecil Marie Tong, and in my work I'm very interested in human experience and human perception of an environment undergoing change. The Intimate Earthquake Archive comes out of long research into the man-made earthquakes in Groningen, which is the result of the gas drilling in one of the largest fields for natural gas in Europe. The people who are living in Groningen have felt them and have raised their voices about their presence for many decades, but have been overheard by government or by the industries. Hearing these stories, I kind of started thinking of the idea of making an archive of sensory experience. I have gone into the publicly accessible data bank of seismic information of all the earthquakes that has existed in Groningen and tried to transform that into a tactile sensory experience that somewhat echoes the experience the people who are living in Groningen with the earthquakes are experiencing. Together with my collaborators, I've created these tactile vests, and when visitors interact in the installation, the vests will transform the data sets of each of the earthquakes into a unique composition onto the body. The installation consists of hanging capsules, which are actually core samples that are made from sandstone. The core samples in themselves are also archives of the Earth that shows the sedimentary layers, which is useful for finding gas. So they're natural archives in themselves. Inside each of these core samples are embedded long-wave radio transmitters, which each transmit one of the 12 strongest earthquakes that have been recorded in Groningen. And this whole process has been really interesting for me, specifically putting up the show here in the Eye, which is this kind of space that almost in a way looks a bit like a laboratory. People who are experiencing the earthquakes are behind glass, cut off from the rest of the audience, and they're being looked at through these large windows. In a way, This whole process has been a little bit like a scientific experiment as well. And the data that we're extracting and the sensory experience that we're creating are somewhat also a kind of safe or sanitized version of an experience that is actually affecting people. So I think actually there is a lot of tension in terms of how do we collect these kinds of phenomena and how do we archive them. Of course, that raises a lot of questions about how does this kind of event go into history and how do these experiences become part of this history. My name is Tong, and in my work I'm very interested in human experience and human perception of an environment undergoing change. The Intimate Earthquake Archive comes out of long research into the man-made earthquakes in Groningen, which is the result of the gas drilling in one of the largest fields for natural gas in Europe. The people who were living in Groningen have felt them and have raised their voices about their presence for many decades, but have been overheard by government or by the industries. Hearing these stories, I kind of started thinking of the idea of making an archive of sensory experience. I have gone into the publicly accessible data bank of seismic information of all the earthquakes that has existed in Groningen and try to transform that into a tactile sensory experience that somewhat echoes the experience the people who are living in Groningen with the earthquakes are experiencing. Together with my collaborators, I've created these tactile vests, and when visitors interact in the installation, the vests will transform the data sets of each of the earthquakes into a unique composition onto the body. The installation consists of hanging capsules, which are actually core samples that are made from sandstone. The core samples in themselves are also archives of the Earth that shows the sedimentary layers, which is useful for finding gas. So they're natural archives in themselves. Inside each of these core samples are embedded long-wave radio transmitters, which each transmit one of the 12 strongest earthquakes that have been recorded in Groningen. And this whole process has been really interesting for me, specifically putting up the show here in the Eye, which is this kind of space that almost in a way looks a bit like a laboratory. People who are experiencing the earthquakes are behind glass, cut off from the rest of the audience, and they're being looked at through these large windows. In a way, this whole process has been a little bit like a scientific experiment as well. And the data that we're extracting and the sensory experience that we're creating are somewhat also a kind of safe or sanitized version of an experience that is actually affecting people. So I think actually there is a lot of tension in terms of how do we collect these kinds of phenomena and how do we archive them. Of course, that raises a lot of questions about how does this kind of event go into history, and how do these experiences become part of this history?
Hello, we are live again. You just saw this beautiful or interesting video. The installation itself is down there in our main exhibition hall, and here we are now in an actually very special room of the Ars Electronica Center, which is completely constructed out of wood, designed in the computer, then with all the digital technology. Everything has been produced in the factory, all the parts have been delivered here into the center, and then they were simply put together a little bit like Lego. I mean, it was a little bit more complicated, but I think it's a perfect environment for this extremely beautiful installation that we have here.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is the project Solarville from Space 10, a studio based in Denmark. For us, it was really amazing to see like the combination of the project and also the position where we had the chance to build it. It's for us the bridge, the wooden bridge, what Gerfried just explained, is really linking the physical exhibition, Understanding AI, and our Global Shift exhibition behind me. So, and we really see now the project Solarville as an amazing opportunity to also link to our new exhibition upstairs and combine the topics in our main exhibition.
I mean, it's actually sort of a physical realization of what we have upstairs, this idea that based on technologies like blockchain, people on a very individual and decentralized basis can become active protagonists of this energy change. So we don't necessarily depend on the large corporations. There are plenty of really exciting ideas that communities can do it on their own. And that's basically what they are promoting here with this nice project. And I don't know if you see this in the camera, but you can lift them, and then you see all the technology behind it. So it's not just wooden mock-ups, it's actually a functioning system of energy or model system for decentralized energy distribution. Really great thing.
Yeah, exactly. So the houses with the solar panels, I think we are just on the wrong side. They produce the energy, the other ones have a simulation running, like really calculating it on how much they would, as a normal household, would use. So of course the tower, if you like cap the energy, it's like immediately shown that it has a lot more energy uses than the other smaller houses. And I would say
you see how energy is now flowing into the building instead of distributing it. So very nice thing. And what you said already is what's also very important. This new exhibition really connects very nicely to the big exhibition that we have already, dealing with all these issues, for example, how with satellite technology and possibility of Earth observation, we can just get a better picture about what's going on the planet, producing, generating this information and data that, for example, the big AI project that we saw upstairs is using, and then bringing it back into really physical models. Congratulations to this wonderful exhibition.
Thank you. And to our visitors, we really hope to see you here, and you might have the chance to taste some soil.
Ah, yeah. Let's try. Okay. Questions. This is not just... Yeah. Let me say it. So we, as usual, have to now leave those people who are just following the stream. We are reconnecting to a Zoom conference where you can put questions directly online to Veronica and to me. So please bear with us for a few moments until we have reconnected our system.